So this is the review for the Module 6 test. Some of them I'm going to go over with you, and then some of them I'll write the names down. The one that's on the first section where you have to name it, I'm not writing the answer because that's all you have to do. Okay? I will post it on Edmodo for you to check on your own time, not before the test. Okay? Remember to make sure they're in standard form before you name them. On the first one, is it in standard form? No. What should be my first term? Negative 4x cubed. Keep on going. Plus x squared. Plus 10x minus 3. So what would we call that? Cubic polynomial with 4 terms. Is number 3 in standard form? No, I mean yes. What will we call it? What is it? Not cubic. Quintic trinomial. What would we call number 4? First of all, is it in standard form? No, what should it be in standard form? 2n minus 8, and what's that? Linear binomial. Y'all can do the other ones on your own. Yes, you do. Can't use your notes. Yeah. Alright, and the second group, 7 through 14, describe end behavior of the function. Make sure it's in standard form before you describe the end behavior. Number 7, what's your end behavior going to be? What is it? Up and up. Make sure it's in standard form. Remember, if your exponent's even, it's either up, up, down, down. If it's even and your leading coefficient's positive, which in this case it is, it's up and up. If it's even and your leading coefficient's negative, it's down and down. If you don't know how to do that yet, you need to go back, look at the notes. You have to memorize that, okay? Memorization. Number 8, what is my end behavior? Not down and down, up and down. My leading coefficient is odd. An odd number either means up, down, or down, up. Even, same direction. Odds, opposite directions. If it's odd and your leading coefficient's negative, it's going to end on the negative note, meaning the right side's going to point down, left side's going to point up. What would number 9 be? No. Down and down. Again, if my leading coefficient's even, it's same direction, either up, up, or down, down. Since it's negative, that would be a down and a down. Number 10. 10's odd, so it's opposite directions. I think we need to work on some memorizing, okay? It is down and up. Down and up. Those are supposed to be the easy ones on the test. So we might need to go back and look at that chart, memorize it. You will not be given the chart. And for factoring, or for your, when you go, not factoring, when you go to graph as well, you've got to know that in behavior, okay? Yes, ma'am. 15 and 16, it says that you have to factor. You're gonna have to be able to look at each problem and know, is it a, look for GCF, is it a quadratic, can I use T-chart and divide and slide? Is it a difference of squares? Is it a sum of cubes? Is it a difference of cubes? Is it a quartic that I write as a quintic? Do I factor by grouping? You have to look at it and know, all right? So let me do 15 with you. And I'm going to do that on a separate sheet of paper. Oh, and I'm not answering 11 through 14 either, because obviously there's no work to show. It's just the answer. Whoopsie. You can look on Edmodo for the answers. Is it set equal to 0 and in standard form? Yes. Is it a quadratic? No. Difference of squares. Sum of cubes. Difference of cubes. Quartic that I can write as a quadratic. Factor by grouping. Yes. Yes. When you see 4 terms, that's what you're going to go with. You said there's no GCF in the whole thing, right? Okay, so if it's factorable, the factor by grouping method is what we will use. So that's when you group your first 2 terms together, group your second 2 terms together, and factor out GCF separately. What's the GCF of the first group? X squared. Factor it out, what's left? X minus 1. What's the GCF of the second group? Negative 3. Whatever that leading coefficient is, the sign, make sure you take the sign. So that'd be a negative 3. Factor it out, what's left? X minus 1. Is this factorable? Yeah. And we know that because what is inside the parentheses, those 2 factors are identical. So this term and this term, these 2 terms, have a common factor of x minus 1. So we factor that out and put it in one set of parentheses. What's left on the outside, we're going to group it together in another set of parentheses. On these, you're not factoring to solve. The directions just said to factor. Can I factor x minus 1 any further? No, it's linear. X squared minus 3, is that a difference of squares? No, it is a quadratic. If it was factorable, A is 1, B is 0, good job, and C is negative 3. We would need 2 numbers that multiply together to give us A times C, which is negative 3. Add to get B, which is 0. Not factorable, right? Negative 3 times positive 1 is negative 3. Negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2. That won't work. If we did positive 3 times negative 1, we would get negative 3. 3 plus negative 1 is positive 2. That won't work. Negative 3 has no other factors, so that can't be factored any further. Say that was x squared minus 4 and you left it like that, you would pick the wrong answer because it's not completely factored. And again, the directions on that one were just a factor. Okay? 15, or I'm sorry, 16, you can do that one on your own. If I write the answers for these factored ones, some of them I will, some of them I won't. If you do not show me this work, you just have the factors down, I'm not giving you credit on that one. Oh, I could do it in my head. It's not going to work, okay? You can't just give me this because I'm getting ready to give you that and not show me how you got there. I will not give you credit. Does everybody understand that? Okay. So, the answer to 16 is x minus 3 and x squared minus 5 equals 0. The answer to 17 is x plus 1 and x squared plus 1 equals 0. $18 is x minus 4 and x squared minus 3 equals 0. Also, I expect you to pretty much do these on your own paper. Just leave the answers on this sheet. On your notebook paper, or write the problem number that you are doing. Keep it organized. Some of y'all just turn in a piece of paper with numbers everywhere. I don't know what that is. I can't tell how many problems you did, what showed you work to, and what you didn't. If I can't tell, I'm not going to take it, okay? Keep it organized. Most of you are really good about it, but some of you, I don't know what's going on. Okay, 19 I'll do with you. We have x cubed plus x squared minus 20x equals 0. What's the first thing I'm going to do? Right, there's the greatest common factor, and it is x. What's left? Plus 1 x, or just plus x, minus 20. So inside parentheses, we have a quadratic. So if it's factorable, we're going to use the T-chart and divide and slide. What is 1? What is A? 1. What is B? 1. And what is C? Negative 20. So my T-chart, I need two numbers that multiply together to give me A times C. A times C is negative 20. And then add to give me B, which is positive 1. Negative 20 times 1 is negative 20. What's negative 20 plus 1? Negative 19. So that won't work, right? But it's okay if we don't figure it out on the first time. That doesn't mean that we can't figure it out. It's just that wasn't the right one. Say it again. Well, if we do negative 1 times 20, this will just give us positive 19. Okay, let's try that. Negative 4 times positive 5 is negative 20. And negative 4 plus 5 is positive 1. Bless you. So that works, right? Don't forget your GCF. Bring it down. Make two sets of parentheses. The variable they used was x, so that's going to be my first term in each set. And I've got a minus 4 and a positive 5. What would I be dividing and sliding by? 1. Is that going to be necessary? No. Am I factored completely? This is linear and linear. As long as there's no GCF, I'm good to go. My first term times my first term gives me my first term. My last term times my last term gives me my last term. I would have to refactor in that GCF to get to the original, but we should be good. Coolio? The answer to number 20 is x times x minus 1 times x plus 4 equals 0. And I'm going to give y'all mega points on this review, so make sure you do it. You show me all work. If you don't, you're going to lose mega points. And yes, it is due on test day, which is next class. 21 x times x minus 3 times x minus 2 equals 0. 22. X times x minus 3 times x plus 1 equals 0. Look at 23, 24, 25, and 26. What kinds of problems are those? Difference of cubes and sum of cubes, right? Okay, so I'm just going to pick one of those. The rest are the same. Notice I've done one of each type, and then I've given you the answers to the rest, right? So the one I did here, I factored out a GCF. What was left was a quadratic. Same with 20 through 22. On 16 through, or 15 through whatever, 18, those were all factored by grouping, right? So 23 through 26 is either going to be a sum of cubes or difference of cubes. I think some of these are actual examples from your notes. Let me do 23 real quick. X cubed plus 27 equals 0. That's a perfect cube plus a perfect cube. We call that a what? Sum of cubes. Use the pattern. Pattern is a plus b times a squared minus ab plus b squared. So remember, figure out what a, b, a squared, b squared, ab, figure out what all that stuff is. To find a, you take the cubed root of the first term. So correct, it's x. To find b, take the cubed root of the last term. And don't worry about the sign because the sign is going to be whatever the pattern says. So what's the cubed root of 27? 3. Then we need to know what a squared is. So look back up here. We said a was x. We got to square it. And what do we get? You know it. We got to find AB. Again, don't worry about the sign because we're just using the sign in the pattern. So A times B. If A is x and B is 3, what's x times 3? 3x. And the only other thing we need to know is B squared. We said B is 3. So 3 squared gives me 9. So now we just take all these, substitute into the pattern. So instead of a plus b, we'll write x plus 3. For a squared, we'll substitute in x squared. It says to subtract whatever ab is, which we said is 3x. It says to add whatever b squared is, and we said that would be 9. Can x plus 3 be factored any further? No, it's linear, and as long as it doesn't have a GCF, it can't. I told y'all, whenever you're doing sum of cubes or difference of cubes, that quadratic that you're always left with, to my knowledge, I've never seen it be able to be factored further, okay? I don't want to say never, but I've never seen it factored further. But if it was, I would need two numbers that multiply to get 9, add to get negative 3. Is that going to be possible? No. So this should be completely factored. Again, directions just say to factor. They do not say factor and solve. So once you're finished factoring, good to go. I'm getting ready to put it back up when I write the answers to the other ones. Everybody okay with that? Yes.
What would you, 19 to 22, what would you call it?
Once you factored out the greatest common factor, what's left on each of them is going to be a quadratic where you do the divide and slide after you take out the GCF. So there's not a special name. You know what I mean? So what's 24? What's that called? Difference of cubes. And the answer is x minus 4 times x squared plus 4x plus 16 equals 0. Again, you don't show me the work like I just did. You will not get credit. I can do it in my head. It's not going to work. What's 25? Difference of cubes. The answer is x minus 5 times the quantity of x squared plus 5x plus 25 equals 0. 26 is a sum of cubes. Remember, 1's a perfect cube. 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. And the answer is x plus 1 times x squared minus x plus 1 equals 0. 27 and 28, you have to sketch a graph. I just spent a lot of time going over the homework on sketching graphs. So if you weren't here for that lesson, I would go watch the video if I was you. You're going to have to sketch a graph. It's 10 o'clock already. Let me see how much time I have, but I'm probably not going to happen. But real quick, 27, what would your end behavior be? Down and up. How many possible times can it cross the x-axis? 3 or less, right? What's your y-intercept going to be? Positive 2. And then how are you going to factor this? Factor by grouping to factor, set each factor equal to 0. You'll see where it'll cross the x-axis, right? You're going to have to do all that. We don't have time. 28, what's your end behavior going to be? Down and up again. What is your y-intercept? 9. And what method are we going to use to factor that? Factor by grouping. Again, factor, set each factor equal to 0 to solve for x to see where it crosses the x-axis. Draw in your end behavior. Your y-intercept will help you with a point, and then whatever other points you have to use, do a table of values.
These bottom ones, 29 through 32, are just factor.
Well, let's look at them. 29 through 32. What are those? What are they? Rewriting as a quadratic, right? They're quartic, but they all have 420 degrees. 420, 420, 420. Those are quartics that we rewrite as quadratics. One on the homework we had to do when we were factoring to solve so that we could graph. I'll do 29 on a separate sheet. But before I start, what's that first question we always ask? And is there? Yes. What is it? 2. Any x's? No x's, right? Because that 96 does not have any x's in it. So we do have a factor of 2. Don't forget about it. If you don't put it in your answer won't be correct. So right now we're just factoring out a 2. What do we have left? X to the 4th minus 14x squared plus 48. Already did that in the calculator. Boom. That's not cheating. You're allowed to use your calculator. Okay, inside parentheses, are we still going to rewrite that as a quadratic? Yeah, because I still have 4 degrees, 2 degrees, and 0. Now, if on the review today, like, I still don't get how to do that one thing. Go back and watch the video of whatever it is that you don't forget or that you don't understand, okay? That still doesn't help you, Algebra Nation. That still doesn't help you, go find videos on YouTube. Do a search on whatever the title was that I called it, that section, okay? All right, so remember, to rewrite, I replace x squared with a. So don't forget to bring down your GCF. And I'll have a squared minus 14a plus 48. I turned it into a quadratic. This only works with 4 to 0 degrees. Just because it's 4 degrees does not mean you can use this method, okay? So now I made a quadratic. I can do regular old T-chart and divide and slide. What is A? What is B? And what is C? So we need two numbers that multiply together to give me A times C, which is positive 48, and add to give me B, which is negative 14. Negative 6 and what? Negative 8. Negative 6 times negative 8 is positive 48. What's negative 6 plus negative 8? Negative 14. That's going to work for us. So don't forget your GCF. Make two sets of parentheses. Right now we're just using the A. And we have a minus 6 and a minus 8. Are those my factors? Might they be one of your choices if it was multiple choice? Probably. Is that going to be correct? No. Do you see any A's in the original? What do I got to do? I got to go back and undo this. Now, wherever I see an A, I got to substitute back into x squared. So it'll be 2 times the quantity of x squared minus 6 times the quantity of x squared minus 8. Is x squared minus 8 a difference of 2 squares? Are you sure? No, if it was x squared minus 4, but 8's not a perfect square. So they are quadratics. Just double check. Two numbers that multiply together to get negative 6. Add to get 0. Is that possible? I don't think so. On this one, it would be, because if A is 1, B is 0, C is negative 8, right? Two numbers that multiply to get negative 8, add to get 0. Is that possible? No, if it was, you would need to factor further. It's not. Those are my factors. Okay? The answer to 30 is A minus 3 times A plus 3 times A squared minus 7. So obviously when you factored in that factor, you got a difference of 2 squares and can factor it further. That's what I'm seeing there. 31 is 6 times the quantity of x squared minus 2 times the quantity of x squared plus 7. (32) is m squared plus 5 and m squared plus 2. Now before the test, and y'all remind me I said so, if you have questions on the graphing ones, or any of the other ones, but we'll have to go over them quickly. You're going to have to know what your question is. There's no way I can go over all of the problems that I did not go over today. So I'm giving you the answers. All right, so I'm going to have to limit the time for questions. There will not be 32 questions on there. I did that so that I had enough to go over with you and you had enough to practice on your own. I haven't made it yet, so I don't know how many questions there will be. But probably like one of each type of factoring, that kind of thing. Couple in behaviors, couple name this polynomial, one graph that won't be multiple choice. So I know we don't have much time left, but I need you to be working on this. And I need you to finish it. Like I said, this is 32 problems. It's going to be worth a lot of points. Okay? No, not more than the test. Okay. All right, bye.